the anticipation.
Yes, you can, yes, ready.
Good evening, everybody. No, I'm going to miss that. And welcome to the St Patrick's Day Oundle Town Council meeting, 17th of March. We have quite a full agenda today, so I'm going to crack straight on with item 25 of 185, apologies for absence. We have apologies from
Councillor Gray and Councillor Osborne.
Thank you. Notice here. So we are asked to accept those apologies for absence, which I think we can do by general muttering and acclaim and nodding and bits and pieces. Wonderful. Move on to item 25/186, declaration of interests. I'll read all of these out and then people can declare as necessary. Councillors are asked to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests, to declare any other interests, to consider any request for dispensation, to report any gifts or hospitality accepted over the value of £50, and to report any inappropriate gifts or hospitality offered. Nothing.
I always say I work for Oundle School.
Thank you.
Goes magic on, yeah, just before something.
Just to this. Thank you. I'll move on to item 25/187, minutes of previous meetings. The proposition is that we approve and sign the minutes of the council meeting held on the 17th of February as an accurate record. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the February council meeting? In that case, could I have somebody propose that we accept those? Councillor Fuller, thank you. Somebody second, we will accept those. Councillor Clark, thank you. All those in favour? Wonderful, thank you very much. Items 25/188 and I'll take them individually. Public participation, seeing none. Item 25/189, consideration of request from interested parties, seeing none. Item 25/190, Oundle Town Council. We've had apologies from Councillor Farrell.
That's all.
That's it. And Simon has talked to me today about why he couldn't be in here. He's attending another NNC meeting. He also raised the Warmington issue, which may come up later on in this meeting. You may or may not be aware that there is a site beside the Warmington Services which has been purchased by somebody who is a traveller. That site has been cleared and people are worried about it. To the extent that they've written to NNC to say, what can you do about it? And the practice, apparently, is that where those sites are being set up, they're normally set up during a bank holiday weekend or a weekend when the authorities are not so available. So Simon Fairhall's asked several times for confirmation from NNC that they will have an officer ready to act should that site be developed. That's that. We'll move on to item 25/191, town matters. 19101, to consider the proposal to change the annual town meeting date to the last Saturday in May this year. And it's a proposal put forward by the Deputy Mayor. Do you have anything to add?
Not really. I mean, you've seen the paper, you will have seen the suggestion really follows on from the item of under any other business I raised at the last full council meeting. So it's essentially following up that discussion that we had at that meeting where I set out again in bullet points what I pretty much said at that meeting, so I don't really need to elaborate on them. And then you'll see at the end of the paper, I end with a formal proposal. I'm happy to take questions, should there be any, in advance to moving to that proposal. But it seems relatively straightforward. We either decide to do it or we don't.
Councillor Chapman.
As a question, we often have people attend that meeting in official capacities. Have we actually canvassed with the sort of people who are likely to go and make presentations as to whether they prefer the Saturday to the Thursday night?
I certainly haven't canvassed them. I don't think, well, I don't think that's critical to the success of a town meeting. We do, we have in the past had representations, particularly from the police, and we often have a councillor from Northants who says something. What I'm also proposing here, as you can quite rightly see, is that I believe that if we moved it to a Saturday, it would allow us to actually make more about what the council is doing and actually present our case, you know, possibly with formal tables and, you know, display boards and what have you. So long answer to your question, no, I haven't formally canvassed anybody. That's not to say they can't attend. I don't think it's a deal breaker.
For those who want to attend, will make time to attend. Councillor Fuller.
I like the idea. I mean, I had to do this once, many moons ago, and I went for the presentations and everything else. And I think, to answer everybody's some of the questions, I think we should give it a go and then evaluate. Because it's a change, we're trying to do a bit more. I totally agree with all of Max's points. And I agree with the idea of making it a little bit more of a display type thing, more about what we do and it's informing. So I would say we'll give it a go and we evaluate afterwards.
Cool. Any other comments or questions of Max? Ian?
Yeah, just a very quick one. I'm assuming if this proposal is accepted, then I'll take it on board with the marketing communications group to have a look at it and make sure it is communicated effectively and probably more predominantly has been in the past to show that there is a change of date and why it's changed. So that's one thing.
And also,
I think Rebecca's already started on that.
Is it? Okay,
Yeah.
great.
I think in the latest advertiser, she'd written something
Okay, but I
about.
think we need to sort of formalise it.
so yeah, the question I've got before we go to a vote, can we get a start there?
I haven't asked them yet, but.
What's your view?
I mean, we do work weekends. The only thing is, I mean, that is like a sort of holiday week. I don't know of anybody at the moment on holiday. We don't tend to need all the staff there anyway, although, because we could potentially get the room set up the night before or the day before. So yeah, it's just, yeah, I can ask them.
But you don't see any impediment?
No, I don't see, but what I having it on Saturday, obviously, if you're looking to get the younger people to come in, there's a high probability you're going to have a lot more children in there. So I think a 2-hour sit-down presentation, like we normally do, is not going to be very effective for that type of audience.
Yeah.
So I think we might have to change it up a bit, make it a little bit more relaxed, maybe.
That's kind of what I meant
Yeah.
by this notion of, you know, different stalls, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like an open day, isn't it?
You could have an open day. I went to one in Warmington where they had people presenting on what they were doing with the playing fields, people presenting on what they were doing about finance. We could talk about properties, we could talk about marketing, we could talk about what we're doing about the traffic thing, we could talk about planning, we could talk about a whole bunch of things. But I think the first thing is, do we agree that we move to a Saturday? The second thing is, what's the format going to be? I think that can only be a result of a positive reaction to the proposal. So any other questions or comments or thoughts? Okay, Max, your proposal, does anybody?
Well, I'm proposing it.
Right, Councillor Fuller,
Second.
seconds, all those in favour? Okay, Ellen?
I'm sort of
Right.
wavering, I'll say
We don't do halfway room. All in favour?
All in favour?
Yeah, she's only coming for half a day.
Thank you. Move on to item 25-191-02 to receive an update on the Town of Culture project. Max, again.
Yeah, again, I will try and be brief. So again, councillors will remember from the last council meeting, again, I can't remember where it came up, if it's under any other business or whatever, but it came up, I think Ian brought it up about the idea of us applying to the new Town of Culture scheme. Subsequent to that, I took on the role of contacting as many cultural organisations within the town that I could, and that I had contacts for, which I've done. I sent them details of the scheme and the expression of interest pro forma, and asked them to send in suggestions around both of those documents. We have had returns from some, but not all of those organisations. I did give them a deadline to send this in to me by the beginning of this week. Having looked at some of those responses, I don't think there's a lot of enthusiasm out there amongst the organisations to do this. I don't know whether it's a question of enthusiasm or the lack of a vision, I don't know. Having talked and spoken to some of them directly, I think there's possibly a misunderstanding of what the project is all about, in terms of, is this just doing more of what we always want? Is it continuing doing what we do, or fundamentally changing this? And I don't think they've quite understood what the competition is about. In terms of next step, I am going to meet with Ian, I think, who originally brought this up. Quite how I've ended up handling it, I don't know, since he introduced it. Yeah, I know I did. And I think we will together, I think, make a judgment as to whether it's worth continuing. The key date is that we have to submit something by the 31st of March, end of this month. I think one key issue that, again, it would be maybe useful to have a little bit of feedback on, I know we haven't got time to discuss this in detail, is that there isn't going to be another full council meeting between now and when the expression has to be submitted. So it's a question of how much you trust Ian and my own judgment, and whether or not this is then formally submitted by the town clerk as what you might call an operational issue. Because the reality is, it's not going to come back to full council.
So that's a secondary issue. I think the first thing is, are there any comments on what Max has said? And then we'll move on to how do we proceed and what authority do we need to give? So just comments on the presentation from Max. David?
Thanks, Max. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where the line to touch paper and it goes, well, or it goes. So I think it's a question of your judgment. I think I certainly trust both your judgments. So I'm happy to accept what you said.
Emma?
Yeah, I think the key for us to be successful is to show collaboration with lots of input from the group. So if we haven't got that, it's whether it's worth carrying on.
Yeah. Okay, I think.
Sorry, if I just respond. I think there's a chance, it's not that they don't want to collaborate. I think for me, slightly disappointing thing is just a simple lack of vision.
Mm.
The other thing that I'm very aware of very quickly is I spoke to somebody about this who's doesn't live here, but is very much involved in cultural activities. And he said, yeah, but you realise that this competition is about giving money to places that don't have culture. You've got plenty of cultural activity going on. This is about promoting culture where there's a cultural desert. I thought it was a very fair point. Anyway, so it made me laugh anyway.
So,
Yeah, I just wanted to back up what Max was saying. I've read a few of the inputs and agree. I think to a degree there's sort of a lack of enthusiasm or a misunderstanding. I have been looking very closely and looking around the country. There's a lot of interest from a lot of towns in this. There's basically only 3 winners. My question is, if we don't find something which is unique, we don't find something which is compelling in terms of vision, what we were trying to do, we may do it. After we looked at it, I'm thinking whether it is actually worth the effort to do so. That being said, I think the effort that we've actually done to go out and get all of this is actually pulling together a lot of the organisations within town. So in itself, the exercise has been worth it from that point of view.
There's a conversation I was having with Max. If we don't push it forward, we've at least created the atmosphere.
Correct.
And the catalyst side. So whilst Max is busy sorting out his power, I'm going to make a suggestion that we as a council, I don't know if it needs to be a proposal, but is everybody happy? We just leave this to Ian and Max and trust their judgment.
Absolutely.
Muttering, so I'm not going to reach a word, and so I think that's fine. So yeah, you're good officers, chaps.
Good luck.
We'll move on to council matters, 25/192, to receive the mayor's report. I'll take any questions if there are any.
Was it actually
I didn't get one.
Oh, I thought I sent it to you. I did get your card.
Sorry, and I just, the very just didn't realise.
I thought it was the mayor's report.
It was one of those things I just assumed you'd send it.
No, it's a new way of managing. I'm not going to tell you anything, so I don't get any questions. So very, very briefly, I've said vision and strategy, everything's proceeding apace, building assets working party, led by Mike, has moved forward significantly, as we'll discuss later on. Marketing moving forward significantly, as we will discuss later on, which is fabulous. Traffic, transport, all moving ahead, which is lovely. The only thing that hasn't moved ahead has been working with the staff to support the strategy, but we're still deciding on the strategy for buildings. We've now got somewhere with marketing. We're still working on the town planning, transport thing. So we've done as much as we can on that. I talk a little bit about the A605 action group. We haven't had the courtesy of reply from the NMC about the A605, even though I've chased and Councillor Fairhall has chased. And both times we've been promised an answer, and needless to say, we haven't had one. Meetings, I met with Ali Katra, Simon Fairhall and Matt Shearer about managing the public meeting at the rugby club. Went to the Building Assets Working Party on the 23rd. I met with Simon and Max at the public meeting on the 27th. I went to the Staunch public meeting on the 10th of March, and that's it. I also responded to an email from Councillor Humberston, who raised some commentary, let's call it, about the ORFC public meeting. So that's my report.
So can I just ask a question?
Of course.
The 605, you haven't had a reply back on 2 occasions.
Yeah.
Is this just to or down, or have you asked other councils, do they get a response?
So the response was written by Oundle, and on behalf of 13 other parish councillors, all of them agreed the letter, and nobody's had a response. And the letter came from us, so the response should have been here. And when Simon Fairhall talked to the head of highways in Northampton, they said, oh yes, I must get round to doing that. And he still must get round to doing it. So, very disappointing. There was a lot of energy in the room, but we're not making progress with Northampton highways. Any other questions? We'll move on to 25/19202 to see the clerk's report. I have some questions, but unless does anybody else have any comments or thoughts on the James?
I may have missed it. Is there an official update on the vans?
No, there isn't. He's going to let me know when he gets a date, when they're going to be, well, when we'll know when they're coming or not.
But they're on order.
Yeah, on order and at price.
Fabulous.
I was in town today and I saw a van go past and I thought, that doesn't look new, and then remembered that we're not going to get it until after. That's why it's a cheap job. You saw the questions. David, you were sending our marketing plan to NCALC just as a update. Did they say anything about that?
No, Danny thought it was excellent, but I didn't get a chance to really have a discussion with it. But I've got a meeting this Thursday, so I'll have a quiet word with Danny. There's been a lot happening. Okay. So, but it was received very well.
Good. making progress. Ian, is there an update on the Riverside bid for funds? We're looking for some funds, nothing, okay.
Nothing, no.
And yeah, that's it. So thank you. Item 25/19203 to consider request to carry out metal detecting on OTC open spaces. Unusual was my first reaction. Will you have anything to add to this, Emma, or should we just?
No, I mean,
go
they've
straight
come
to it?
before,
Have we?
yeah, in the past,
And
and there's never been any issue.
okay.
See if they dig a hole, then, yeah, go back.
Exact details.
Yeah, is it?
Yes, yeah.
So any comments or questions? Any comments or questions? Max?
Yeah, I was just a bit confused about the suitable unused grass areas within council old land. So, does he want to use other things other than the green space on, say,
No,
Christmas
just
Drive and the
like
rec?
recreation ground.
And I'm thinking of Fletton Hill,
Essentially.
for example.
Yeah, I mean, you might go on to Fletton as well.
And given that the MP clearly adheres to the Portable Antiquities Scheme and the Treasure Act,
Yeah,
if anything, we may benefit from it.
that's what, yeah.
We might, I think it's very, sorry, Ian?
I was just going to say, if we give him permission, is it worth asking him to make sure he has the permission letter with him?
Okay, yeah.
Because then at least if someone does ask him, he can say, well, I've got this.
And I might just add, we'll let you know where he's going when, because again, you know, if somebody rings up and says there's a guy looking about them.
I can ask him, yeah, I can ask him to do it.
Because he seems quite organised in fact.
Yeah.
You know, just property.
Yeah, so the comments I've got said, so number one, does he need to get permission?
From who?
The landlord.
From us, I think they do.
Yes, he
They
does.
definitely need to, permission.
So he doesn't need to get permission. I think it's a very respectful approach. I think it's great. He's got public liability. The only question I've got is, do we need to make sure residents know? Will it lead to other requests? But I think if he carries a letter, whoever said
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
I think if he carries up, if we write to him, give him permission.
and lets us know when he's doing it.
Yeah, brilliant.
You don't know.
Do we need to get approval to that? We've considered it. Can
Do we need to
general,
what?
do we need formal approval or general?
If you're all happy with it,
Yeah,
that's
general
that's
monitoring,
right.
okay. General monitoring. Good. Item,
Can I just ask a question?
sure,
It's the sort of thing where this could be the thin end of the wedge.
yes.
We don't want to start a flood of people all over them. So should we put some kind of limitation in so that we might need to fall back on it?
Max?
I was going to come to answer that in a different way. These detectors tend to talk to one another.
Indeed,
It's a bit like trained spotters.
yeah.
So if someone's done the wreck, we're not going to then have loads of other people wanting to go over the same ground that somebody
Okay,
else has done.
Yeah.
I think that's the way they work.
Yeah, they're very respectful.
It might be worth putting something in our social media saying this is happening so residents might know, but
Yeah.
also to confirm that if anybody else is thinking about doing this, they need council permission first, just to make it clear. So we don't have any Tom, Dick and Harry buying a metal detector and ripping up the ground. So general muttering and nodding with Val's input, I think is useful from the promotion perspective. Item 25/19204 to approve the meeting schedule for 26/27. We're being asked to approve that. Any comments or thoughts on the mic?
I can very minor one, I think it's at the top of my sheet, 24/25, or not.
Oh, well, yeah.
I'll print it out, but I'll print the wrong one.
That's not Tuesday.
It says 25/26 on the header.
Yeah, I'll change that.
Subject to that, do we need that formally approving? And I think we probably do. don't we?
Yeah,
Because it's
I think,
done. So, who would like to propose that? Councillor Fuller. Who would like to second that? Councillor Schurer. All those in favour? Wonderful, thank you. Next one, I'm sure will take a lot of debating. Item 25/19205 to approve the acceptance of Councillor Osborne onto the planning committee.
Please may I propose that?
And may I second?
Proposed and seconded by the chair and deputy chair of the planning committee. I'm sure there's no conflict there. All those in favour? Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. And finally, under this section 25.192.06, to receive an update on policing matters. David, you've put something in the pack.
I could do
Very
a quick
cool.
summary as well. The Northampton, but the fact is that the same scheme has been on the one show, the Daily Telegraph and BBC Radio. So there's a lot of interest out there from mainstream issues around the sort of retail crime. We had a recent incident of antisocial behaviour. The two things that's happened since we've taken them on is, one, in the first week we had this incident with somebody being reported by Tesco's, which then went on to the national, it went up to national crime, because it was a person from Luton who's notoriously bad at this, so that was a success. And recently another success in identifying an antisocial behaviour incident, but that was identified and that person was arrested in another part. So the key message there is, by having this system in place, we're part of the bigger picture. So in terms of intelligence, we are able to, the shopkeepers who use it can actually know who is banned from all shops in the area, which includes Rushden to here. So they can continue that ban, they don't have to let people in if they're banned. The other thing is, it's, as I said, it's intelligence sharing. So if something happens here, it gets reported not just within Oundle, but in a bigger scale, and then things happen from that. We've had 2 of those already. So it's proving successful. And I think that's something that has to be borne in mind. It's sort of doing more things than we initially thought, shall we say, which I think is amazing. There's also wider council meeting to talk about it. So that was the bigger councils in Northants and Daventry use it. Nice thing to note about Daventry, I don't want them to get too upset. They have 57 shops and they're paying 4 times what we pay, and our potential is to have more than half that number. So the money that we've been offered for the scheme is very, very good value. Probably because of the size of the town and everything else, but I just thought I'd put that in context for you. And also Northamptonshire Police, about volunteers. They also have a ranger who's paid for by the council, whose job is to support the town centre. I'm not suggesting we do this, but it's just something to be aware of what other councils are doing out there. And they're not the police, but they have direct links to the police. And the idea they don't want a police person, because what they want is somebody who's like a friend to the town centre, who's not police. We are now the chat from the police about voluntary service within the police, so special constables, cadets and all that stuff. There is a sort of interest of trying to generate it, of setting up a police cadet force. It's very early days, but Arthur, his wife runs the Corby Police, and the value for money they get from cadets is the best of all the voluntary services. So it'd be nice if we could do that.
Yeah.
And also, I spoke to Dec, having a conversation about this idea. He already has a special constable who works with him. So, whether we want to encourage that, more people doing that, because it does add, it's basically the police pay for it, but it does give you an extra support if you needed it. And finally, on the report, because I wrote it before I went, a few days ago I attended a CCTV workshop for Northampton. I was only with Thrapston and Rawns, and I spoke to them about it today, but effectively Northants are investigating whether they go for a central CCTV system for the towns. It's all a bit woolly at the moment because they haven't decided yet. So they've employed this consultancy firm to send out questionnaires to all the towns about their CCTV, and then they're looking at that, a discussion about it and how we do it. One of the suggestions was to have a number of mobile cameras that you could borrow, which would be quite useful at certain times, particularly on Fletcherfield and places like that. But how it works is another thing. So there's lots of technical questions which I've given to Lisa, but there is something, and I know it affects the estates committee, but there is something big potentially happening, and we're in the process of discussions with them. So
Watch this
lots
space.
of policing and stuff like that.
Thank you. Any questions of David? Keep up the good work. I think we've got some good publicity from that in the town. Move on then to financial matters, 25/193, 25/193/01, to improve the bank rec balance sheet budget for February. I've got bank balances there. Any questions about any of those items, the bank rec, the balance sheet or budget? None. We need to approve those. Can I have somebody to propose we approve those? Councillor Fuller, thank you. Can I have somebody to second that? Councillor Affleck, thank you. All those in favour? Perfect, thank you. Item 25/193/02, payments for February. Proposals that schedule payments for February are, as presented with this item, are paid. There are no questions.
Just a little surprise, against one of the payments, which was to a firm of solicitors, that a third party is named alongside it. I'm just wondering whether that should have happened.
On the payment schedule. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice that, to be fair. And that's an internal document to us, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, no, it goes on our website. No, it does.
Oh, it does, in that case.
It doesn't go on after we've approved it, in which case can I suggest that we remove
take
the
it off.
name?
We absolutely. Quite. Thank you. With the exception of a very good spot from David.
Oh,
Any
yes,
questions?
sorry, I've just seen that, yeah. No, that shouldn't be there.
Any other questions or comments? In that case, could I have somebody propose that we accept these payments? Councillor Chappell, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Fuller. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Item 25/193/03, to consider, quote, we've been asked to approve, I think, a quote of £368 to hold a drug dog operation. That's not to give drugs to a dog, but to have a dog which identifies drugs. Something we've done before in Oundle. We talked about this a few months ago. We agreed in principle a few months ago we should do this, subject to amount. So I think the debate is not should we, although we can have that debate, should anybody wish. I think the debate is more about shall we.
I don't know when it's going to happen though.
We don't know.
And they can't tell us because that would spoil the surprise a little bit.
Put it in the minutes and
Yeah, put it on social media. James, then David.
Is that this year's budget or next year's? Which one?
Good question.
Next year's budget, potentially, I haven't looked that far if I'm honest, but we have a safety,
Community safety budget. So
budget, which I hope there's some money in there. But it's not been taken out.
If there's enough for it to be paid this year, I suggest we do, because we've only got a month.
Yeah, it won't get paid this month.
And we can't prepay. Oh, we can't, can we accrue?
No, we don't know.
I've had this debate before. Okay, so it'll come out next year's and hopefully community safety. James, do you have any follow-up on that?
If you're asserting that there is, it's
Well,
within
it's spent
budget,
anything next year, so.
yeah, but we don't know the budget. The question was, does that budget line still exist?
We have paid it earlier this year, did we not? Or was it last year?
Be a lot, obviously, I'm going to be fully supportive of this. The only way that you can, drugs, it's anti-drug and they're very good at what they do. Unfortunately, we have to pay for the dog, which is, for those people who've not been in the discussions before, it's the only way you can do it. But if you want to sort of keep a lid on the drugs, you need to do these sort of things. My recommendation is that we do it whatever, once a year at least. I know that it's all random, but I think it's very important proactive step from the council to actually deal with an issue that does go under the radar.
I can do. I'll take Mike and then Ian. Mike.
I think just Jason's point is that now we have a budget for next year, we can spend a lot of time on, everything's listed out. So I think anything that comes forward to spend needs to be identified within the budget or otherwise.
Yeah, we had said anything over 750 within the proposal has to include the budget line, but it would be good practice to include it as part of any proposal.
So I'm sorry, the 750 was you got to have a business case,
yeah.
but all payments have to be within a budget.
Yeah.
And so that was just the question.
Yeah, so it'll have to come out of that budget. I don't think we've got anything allocated from that budget for next year. I think it's just a map. Ian, can you recall anything within that budget or budget king?
Not off the top of my head, I'll have a look, but nothing's come out this year. So the only thing I was going to say is that the ramifications of a single dog visit are like ripples. They last for weeks amongst young people in the town, and villages nearby as well.
Yeah.
So you know, it's a tiny spend for the value it gets. So even if it comes out of reserves, technically it's still good value.
So I think the two questions are: one, should we do it? I'll take a vote on that. And then two, which budget does it come from? And I don't think that's a voting matter. I think that's for the clerk to sort out. That would be my proposal. So I think we need a councillor to make this proposal, don't we, Emma? So are you proposing it, David?
Yeah.
Proposed Councillor Fuller. Does anybody want to second the drug dog operation? Councillor Chesser? That wasn't a question, that was seconding.
Yeah.
Thank you. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you very much. And we'll leave the budget to you,
Yeah.
Emma.
Oh, yeah, it's just brilliant.
25/193/04 to consider making a donation to the staunch legal fees. I've written the proposal. I will take questions. David.
I don't know whether it's a question or a kind of an observation. It's an awful lot of money. It represents a significant kind of grant type payment, which we're doing in an unprecedented way without effectively having consulted any of our electorate. And I just wonder, bearing in mind we're only 2 months away from our town meeting, whether we raise the matter at the town meeting on the basis of, say, indicating now that if there is general approval at the town meeting, we go ahead, but if not, it comes back onto the agenda to be considered. Because at the moment, I don't think I would support doing it just yet.
Okay, very good point, thank you. Any other comments? Ian?
Yeah,
And
just
then Max and then Mike.
I've been a councillor now for just this first term. The staunch has come up a couple of times in various meetings. And I think, if my memory serves me correctly, the overall view of the council at the time, and maybe still at this moment in time, is that we're broadly approving of what Staunch is trying to do, but we want to limit any financial involvement because it could be seen as maybe a little political, and we are an apolitical body. So I really want to take that into consideration because, and I agree with David's point, that is a lot of money. So at the moment, I can't really see how I can look at that because of the way the council has basically voiced its concern or its observations in the past.
Okay, any other, thank you. Any other comment, Mike?
Yeah, I agree. David, I agree with David and Ian. You know, when I joined the council, it was a big thing about we're not political, and you might view this as political, not political, but it's sort of going along that line. It's not in our law. I know we should take into account our neighbours as well. And I think David's point about how it would be viewed would be not particularly positive. However, without going to a meeting, we won't know. So I would. At this meeting, I would say no, but if it goes to the town meeting and there's a broad favour of it, then we could discuss it.
Okay, thank you, Max.
I like David's suggestion about postponement to the town meeting. In terms of political, I think this is apolitical. They're not, it's just anti a planning application. It's not political in terms of political parties. And I think, in a sense, I think we're actually in a bit of a cleft stick. It does seem quite a lot of money. And unfortunately, there were very few people at the meeting, whenever it was last week. And you might say, oh, well, you know, the town isn't bothered about it. But I will tell you this, the chances are it will go through. And when there's traffic steaming through the town and actually around the 605, people were saying, why didn't we do anything about it?
Yeah. Thank you, Max. Ian?
I was at the meeting and I just grabbed my phone because I made some notes because I was quite agnostic to start with. And by the end of the meeting, I was not agnostic. And the numbers were what did it for me. And these are based on the traffic assessments. And we know from our own experience how much faith we have in our local planning authority and our local highways authority. And the numbers suggest that 3,600 HGV movements a day, 11,720 light van movements a day onto the A605, which does come through the parish of Oundle. And the horrific thing that this pointed out was by the time that traffic, which is 3.7 miles of HGVs bumper to bumper every day, gets to the Elton turnoff, North Highways have assessed that all of it will have dissipated. So every single one of those lorries and light vans will have headed off into another route through Oundle, etc. There was a question from the floor, what happens if there's an A605 problem? And that's another 11 or 12% of A605 traffic coming our way. And as more and more people move to Oundle, it becomes more of a residential area for Peterborough. That extra traffic flow, particularly coming out of the Elton turnoff, is going to have a huge impact on us and our residents. The other thing that I think was really important was that, as I said at our last meeting, Oundle is in the middle of this area, but we're often forgotten. But I don't think we help ourselves by helping our wider community. And effectively, the proposal here is for £1 for every person in Oundle. And when we want help in a year or 2 or 3 years' time, that could be a really wise investment. So I think it's a no-brainer, unfortunately.
Thank you. I think two, James and then I'll sing.
Accepting or putting aside the value of, or the pros and cons of the proposal itself, or the application itself, we spent a significant amount of time at the budget round minimising the spending of this council to the extent that, you know, £5,000 became a big number that people were very strongly anti-adding to the precept or whatever. And whilst this proposal spends that from reserves, all we have to do is raise the precept at some future point given, unless we're saying that we've got a bonus £5,000 that we need for no other purpose, which I don't believe. We're going to have to raise the precept to repay ourselves that £5,000 if we spend it. And I just feel a bit of a contradiction there between the amount of time that we spend arguing that we cannot put another pound onto the precept, but we can just put the £5,000 down to storage with less conversation.
So some of which were addressed in the proposal. Number one, I think Oundle, it does affect Oundle, because as Ian said, any problems on the A605, we'll see traffic. We already see traffic coming through when there are roadworks. If there are any hold-ups on the A605 at either of the roundabouts or the Barnwell turn, it will affect people in Oundle. The cost perspective, I've suggested from reserves. We have more in there than we thought we had, given our decision last month. And I specifically said in the proposal that I suggest that comes from reserves because we don't want to put it on the precept because it would be a one-off. Why would you add money to a precept on a one-off expense? That said, I think that I'm persuaded that a wider consultation would be beneficial. We had suggested last month, which is why it's been brought up, that we invited Staunch to present. Sadly, not enough people went. Those who did go were massively in favour, but then Staunch did a very good presentation. So perhaps, rather than put this proposal forward and have it defeated, I'll leave it until after the ATM, and providing we can make sure that as part of the town meeting, we absolutely include a questionnaire for those who are at the town meeting to ask 2 questions. Question 1 is, should you support? And question 2 might be a multiple choice to the extent of 25p or 50p or £1 per resident. Something along those lines. I think that would be worthwhile. I would take Val, then David, then Rob, then Ian.
It isn't only about the money. I mean, I don't want to pay £1 and then think, well, I've done my bit towards that. I don't have to think about it anymore. We can still support them and doing things like having questionnaires, etc., amongst the Oundle Town users of the roads. I think that's a better way of doing it anyway.
Yeah, thank you. David?
I presume we would have Staunch town meeting and a presentation, which they do as a sort of stand.
I think that would be an excellent idea.
I think that would really make a big difference.
Agree. Rob?
Do the May timing help them for the appeal? Because if not through this particular campus,
I think they would prefer money early because they've got bills to pay. But if that's the decision of this council, I'm sure they wouldn't say. If the decision was otherwise no, I'm sure they'd vote no. Or June, in fact, because the first meeting would be June.
Just given that the appeal is 24th to the 25th, and they've made a point that only a certain number of judicial reviews get to the High Court, so they feel relatively positive about that. And their point is that it's all about the process. And they suspect it will go through in some way, shape or form in the future. But the point is NNC needs to be held to account for not doing their job properly so far. So I was just wondering if there's any way we can make it conditional and say we agree tonight, assuming the annual town meeting supports that idea. So at least we could get them those funds earlier in June rather than at the end of June.
I still think there are 2 issues, David.
I mean, that was rather what I was saying earlier. I'm not necessarily against the idea of doing it if the support is there. So I would be happy enough to approve it in principle tonight, as it were, subject to the go-ahead. The problem I perceive with that is, supposing there were 50 returns, of which 26 were in favour and 24 were against, are we then going to have to decide on levels of majority and so on? Which is slightly arguing against myself, but I mean, it's attractive to say, if they say yes, we'll do it. What if the take-up's incredibly low? Supposing there are only 3 votes, 2 in favour and 1 against. Are we really going to spend £5,000 on the basis of 3 people?
I think it's 6.5.
Or whatever it is.
It's proposal did say 6.5.
Yeah.
Maybe I will propose then that subject to a 60% or 2/3 majority of those responding to the ATM, subject to that support, we will donate a sum of money, such sum of money to be determined by the level of returns we get. So if 60% say I'll pay 50% for £1 or that just becomes awfully complicated.
It's horrific.
Yes, I know, don't.
Yeah.
Rob? Yep.
Just the point of principle, this isn't how we normally make decisions.
No.
We don't consult the town, we want to buy new land or pay an insurance bill. We are elected to make a decision on behalf of the residents of the town.
Yeah.
And we're not able to do that. And maybe this is a different opinion, but that is our purpose of being here. Otherwise, we have to then consult for every time we want to spend £5,000 on something else that affects the town.
But my own view, and I'll take others, of course, this is out of the ordinary. I think it's our responsibility to make decisions in the normal course of business. This is not normal course of business. So I accept your point fully. And we have had, I'm delighted to say, we've had so many differences of opinion, votes which have been, had people voting either way, which I think is very, very helpful. So I'm comfortable that we make decisions in the normal course of business by majority vote, which is the way that it should be. Unless you want to make a proposal, Robin, I'd be happy for you to do so. Personally, I think this is not the normal course of business. I do think it warrants, but others may have a different view. James.
I was generally minded, along with David, that we're spending the town's money. I'd like to hear the town opinion of it. But I was actually concerned by what Ian said, which I understood to be, please correct me if I'm wrong. Ultimately, we think this is going to go through, and what we're doing is holding NNC to account for a poorly run process. And if that's what we truly believe is going to happen, I am absolutely against spending £5,000 or £6,000 of Oundle's money just to show that NNC administered the process poorly.
I think I'll continue to say, what they said was it might change their view, but there are particular issues around the environmental side and the SSI stuff, which might in fact, particularly if the Lilford thing doesn't happen, might in fact stop the proposal. We don't know that. So please don't take this as anything other than a report, not an indication. But it is possible that it might not happen at all. I don't know what the level of probability is. I'll come to you in a second. Ian.
There was this, it's slightly complicated, but there's an area outside Titchmarsh Lake where 4% of the wintering population of golden plovers in the country winter. And they got into a very detailed conversation last week at a planning meeting in Corby. But in essence, those golden plovers, their entire population rests on the fields they want to put the factory warehouses on. And there are two different types of land that they can give in planning. And David will correct me if I'm wrong, I can't remember the exact names, I've got some notes somewhere. But it's whether it's an absolute commitment to use that field or whether it's a suggested commitment to use that field. And NNC have put the principle of using this bit of land for the warehouses instead of golden plovers. We send a memo or something and they'll fly 3.5 miles further north to Lilford to forage. In the presentation last week for planning in Corby, it became clear that that land has now had a large amount of contaminated or uncontaminated waste put on it from a building site. There is all sorts of groundwater surveys going to be done, but the slightly tenuous result is if that land can't be given to the golden plovers who may or may not know about it, then the entire foundation of the application falls. And it's that point of technicality which has been glossed over by NNC, which we're familiar with, which is quite fundamental. So it's not so much, maybe I was glib, but it's not so much, it's just a, say, Yahoo sucks to you to NNC, but if those fundamentals are wrong, the entire thing has to start again, and 3 or 4 years down the line, those warehouse companies will put them somewhere else. And the point Dawn's making is that NNC have a very clear strategy of growth towns in Kettering, etc. And Oundle and Thrapston are not growth towns, they're market towns that are meant to be preserved. And if we let Thrapston get done over, we'll be there. So
it's starting.
Maybe. I'll take Max and then Emma. Max.
Right, I know you probably want to wrap this up, so I will be quick. I think we should ditch this proposal altogether. You should withdraw it. We should invite Staunch to the new town meeting that we're going to have on the Saturday, and inform the public of that in advance. That will allow councillors to talk to Staunch themselves rather than listening to Councillor Clark, although he gave a very good account, and inform themselves, and we bring this back to the first meeting after council when we have a better idea what the public reaction is and council have had a chance to actually hear from the Staunch people themselves.
Thank you, Max.
Just a quick one, are they reliant on our money? Can they not continue if they haven't got our money? And also, if they have that money, what happens when they've run out and they need more money?
So the answer is quite straightforward. Number one is they need more than what we might or contribute, and if we don't contribute, they need that as well. It's going to be an ongoing thing, but part of this proposal is this will be a one-off thing from us. And I think I've also said in the proposal, I hope I did, that if we did decide to do it, we would do it by paying a bill for council, COUNSEL, so that we can claim that back.
If what Max said was a variation of your proposal, I'll second it.
But I think Max is saying don't do it at all.
Well, that's what, well, we saw the current one.
So have you got a proposal?
Do you want me to formulate that as a
Yes,
proposal?
please. Yeah. Sorry, did you have anything to add?
Well, the proposal.
Sorry, hang on, Max.
Oh, sorry.
I was just wondering if the number of 6,500 is a number. And it's not a proposal, but it's just worth considering before we formally propose something. Could we make a more token gesture at this stage of say 500 and then look to the town meeting for support for a larger amount? Because then at least we've supported our neighbours in doing something of value, and then we can add more to it later.
I welcome other councillors' thoughts. My own view is I'd rather not, because once you start, when do you stop? Councillor Gilbert and Councillor Chapel.
My point isn't about the difference in funding. I think it was touched upon earlier. It needs to come down to the fact that there are regular problems on 605, whether it's roadworks, whether it's accidents. And if there's a big increase in traffic on that road, Oundle will be absolutely swamped. And the people out there that pay for their services will be up in arms. Because the town will grind to a halt, especially if it's in the morning when the school buses are coming through. It'll be an absolute nightmare. And I think we've got to be seen to be doing something about this.
Whether they'll lay that hard or is a different question. David. Is it David? Yeah. Yes. I lose time who I promised to give time to. So, David.
Yeah, £500 would be just tokenism, frankly. And I'm not sure that that has any real merit to just do it as a sort of tokenistic thing at this stage. Either we do it meaningfully, or we don't do it at all. And now, I would suggest, is not the time to do it. I think Max is right. There is this opportunity to take it further forward and explore this issue. And the mayor's right. This is very much a one-off. As somebody who's frequently moaned about government holding referenda, saying, you know, you're elected to do the job.
Yeah.
I now sit here thinking, the problem with that is that I now can see a merit in actually going to the people and saying, guide me about what we do, because I'm not sure you will want me to do this.
I think the key word in all of that is guide. I don't think we should be asking them to vote. I think we should be garnering opinion.
Yeah.
We have to make a decision, but I think garner opinion, talk to people and come back honestly with your view on what people said again in town meeting. And Ian, I think if you can
we can
kind of raise that.
We'll work
and
together and draft something on that.
And so an action point then would be for you to contact Staunch and invite them to the annual town meeting on the basis that this council will make a decision on whether or not to provide any financial support, subject to input from the townspeople. We're all happy with that. Do you want to make that proposal?
Yes, so the proposal is that the current proposal is withdrawn and replaced by inviting Staunch to the next town meeting. We advertise that in advance and use that to gauge the feeling of the, shall we say, ratepayers' view about whether or not we should support this.
That's the proposal, seconded. David, councillor Chapel, all those in favour?
Can I just query something?
Of course.
When you say support this, exactly what do you mean? You mean spend the money
I
or
didn't
support it in some way?
support it in terms of us giving a donation of
Only
£5,000.
about the
So
money,
support it
only about the
financially,
money.
Yeah, support it financially.
Oh, you're asking us to agree 6,500?
No.
No, we need to know the extent to which there's an appetite to support it financially
And if the
also.
townspeople
Yeah.
say yes, or
Yeah.
then we
decide on things.
So the key word in there is guide. It's still up to us to make that decision. It's up to us to decide how much is paid, if anything at all. But the suggestion of the proposal is that we ask Staunch to present quickly. We ask townspeople for their views afterwards, and we honestly come back, regardless of our personal opinion, we come back with a view from the townspeople, and then we make a decision as to whether we are A, going to, and B, if we do, how much. But there's no commitment to either at this stage.
So we've not voted that yet, have we?
No, we haven't, because we've had questions of clarification.
What you just said, obviously, if everybody at the town meeting is fully for this, the decision still comes back to this meeting.
Yes,
You are all still entitled to
Yes.
disagree if you want.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I just,
But I do like to feel like honestly, because no, we're very strong opinions as to whether we should and we shouldn't. I accept that. But we need to be representative of the views of the people we represent, whether we like them or not. And then we can bring them back. So, subject to the proposal that we consult the town, we consult and get guidance at the annual town meeting. We have invited Staunch. That's your proposal, seconded by councillor Chapel. Are there any other matters of clarification? Are there any alternative proposals? In that case, all those in favour of that proposal? We'll be doing 11 of us. All those against? I beg your pardon, it's 10-2, isn't it? Yes, 10-4, 2 against. Thank you very much. Good. Item 25-19305, to approve the quote for continual support with the Peninsula for health and safety, also to include HR support, the figure that has been given. Just for clarification, I've just had correspondence with them earlier today. The total cost for HR support and health and safety support, if we take this quote from Peninsula, is about £500 a year less than we're paying at the moment. Given that context, do you have anything to add?
other than, we agreed last year to just have the health and safety for 12 months. That's coming up for renewal soon.
Yep.
But the HR support does look very good. I had a conversation. They can help with all of our contracts. They can make sure everything's up to date. There's training for all staff members to have access to. And you can literally pick up the phone and ask a question, like I did with the health and safety thing. And within half an hour, she'd come back to me with a whole load of stuff. I'll be honest, I've not used them as much as I could be using them, but hopefully moving forward, I'll be using them a lot more. But I found them very useful.
Yeah, I've used, and I'm aware of Peninsula, I think they're very good. Any questions of Emma, Mike?
Just one question. I think it was 362 a month or something like that,
351,
but it was for 5 years.
yeah.
So we're committing the next council to something. We don't know what the next council is. Is it possible to?
It would be more money if we reduce the years, it'd be more money.
Okay, maybe, but personally, I think 5 years is too long. So I've been principal of using them for more, because I also have experience of them and they have always been excellent. But I think certainly committing the next council to it is not really a good principle. So I'd like to,
I would take you, then James, then Val.
yes, I would like to suggest that we go for a shorter period.
Thank you, Emma.
A lot of the decisions that you make in this council will have an impact on the next council coming in. So you can't make those decisions and say, oh, we're not going to say yes to that, because by the time, that's still running, the new council will come in and they may not agree to it. You can't run a council like that. You have to make the decisions based on what you.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm happy to support it, but not for 5 years.
Okay, thank you. You make a very good point. We've all made decisions, and previous councils have made decisions which bind us. So that's the way it goes. But good point, Mike. Thank you, James.
Yeah, so I hear you saying that the 5-year deal has financial benefits, so thumbs up from that perspective. And in terms of committing the next council cycle, I actually think it's a good breakpoint, because you wouldn't want to leave the new council coming in potentially all fresh, going, we've got to renegotiate a contract first month in. And I think renegotiating a year in gives it's exactly this situation where we've had a year to get our feet under the table, and it's the perfect time to renegotiate it. So I think there is a mitigation to your concern.
Thank you, James. Val.
Well, my point was, in a way, there's no such thing as the next council, because it's a rolling council that just changes as it goes along. And you'll have a lot of old people, I'm afraid to say, on the council.
I'm not going to ask you to name names, Val. So we have a proposal in front of us. I don't think you can make a proposal officially, so I'll make a proposal for a 5-year contract at £351 per month. Before we get that seconded, Mike, do you want to counter that proposal with an amendment?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have the other figures in front of us, which will make it a bit more expensive. So I don't have the information to know. I mean, if it was like double the money for 3 years, clearly we would be thinking that's not right. So I don't really have the information in there.
But you can vote against the proposal if you think it's not the right proposal.
I don't know I don't have the information to affect the proposal.
Fine. Okay. Bill.
Having experience in my previous life of companies wanting these long-term agreements, they will always say, oh, well, if it's only 3 years, it's going to have to be this budget. You can negotiate that. It wouldn't be a huge amount of difference. And I think 5 years is too long.
Okay. Do you have a counter proposal?
3 years.
3 years.
Can I just say, our last health and safety person was here for 20 odd years, and the HR guy equally 20 years.
Okay.
This council has never had an issue with having long-term contracts with anybody.
Thank you, Ian.
I was going to say,
you can break it at any point if you want.
Yeah.
It's not like we're stuck and have got to,
If we can satisfy, we can break it. Good point.
so we could break it after 3 years.
Ian.
The 2 points, I suppose. One is, no matter who sits around these tables, we're still going to be employers probably, and we're still going to need regulatory support, etc. So that won't go away. And we've just talked about the value of money, etc. So even if it's £10 a month over 5 years, that's still a saving. So it feels, they've got a good reputation, a no-brainer.
Thank you, Max.
Well, my question is, if the clerk is saying we can break this after 3 years, then that's a kind of answer to Mike's question. We can make that decision if we want to break it after 3 years.
Presumably there are.
I mean, I don't want you to say that, because to be honest, I don't want to do that, but you can walk away from it. If we, for whatever reason, we don't want to be with them anymore, we can walk away.
There will have to be reasons for
There
it.
may
Yeah,
Just going
there
to-
have to be reasons.
But I think I'm just going to press this through now.
John, so can I just one more point?
One more.
So you said the first contract last year was for 1 year.
Yeah.
Why was that for 1 year?
Because it was a brand new company that we've not used. We've now used them for a year. I've set up a lot of stuff on their system. I'd be really disappointed if this council turned around and said, we don't want you to be with them anymore, we want you to go somewhere else, because then I'd have to start all that again. But I'm saying to you that I'm very impressed with what I've seen so far.
And it wasn't a brand new company, it was new to us. And it's
Yeah,
been
yeah.
around, you know, this might have been around for years. I'm going to move this to a vote. The proposal is that we accept the recommendation from the clerk to gain support with Peninsula for a 5-year period. Do I have a second of that? Councillor Fuller, thank you. All those in favour? I will count these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 4, and 2 against.
I'm staying, I'm not against.
Oh, sorry, 10 for, 1 against, 1 abstention. Thank you, Mike. Move on to 25-194, highways matters, to receive the speed indicator device report. Consider that received. Any comments or questions on the speed indicator device report? Seeing none, move on to item 25-19402, to consider consultation from highways for the proposed 30-mile-an-hour speed limit on Stoke Doyle Road.
Mr. Chair, is this the one that we have an email saying that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is the one. So, as I remembered that just as I started reading it. Should we discuss this now or discuss it later? Given your email earlier today.
Yeah, I mean, you can leave it to the end and do it in closed session.
I will do that then. We move on to 25-195, planning matters.
Excuse me.
25-19501, to receive the minutes from the planning committee held on the 24th of February. David, do you have anything to add to that report?
I'm just looking very quickly at what's in there, and the short answer is no, I don't think there is anything unless anybody's got any questions.
Any questions of the planning committee? Item 25-19502, to receive an update on the NNC planning committee held on the 11th of March. We won't do that.
It
Because
didn't happen.
It didn't happen. Well, the planning committee did happen,
It's very long.
but they didn't discuss the rugby club because they're reconsidering the lighting and acoustic wall. So, no further action on that at this stage.
Just a quick observation. I went back to look on the portal about the application, and for whatever reason, the committee report that is supposedly on the portal, if you try to access it, you can't. I have no idea why, when you can access every other document on there, but that report has disappeared from the point of view of being able to access it, unless it was a temporary blip and you could do it again, because I haven't tried it again since.
I'm hoping it was a temporary glitch because it has been tried again. I have tried it again and you can see it.
When did you try?
You tried it again, didn't you?
It comes and goes. It's normally the NNC website. If someone else is looking at a document or they're uploading stuff, they turn them all off. But
I'll try it again.
It is intermittent. It's not good enough.
No, frankly, no.
I'm sure they're listening to this committee as we speak. Item 25-196, Estates Management Committee. We're asked to receive the minutes from the Estates Committee held on the 3rd of March. We have other things to discuss later on, Max, but do you have anything to add to the minutes?
Not really. I mean, there's another item on the agenda, and the vast majority of the meeting was around the thing that's reported, so
We'll
I
discuss
have
those.
nothing else to add.
Thank you. Any questions or comments of Max? Thank you, Max. 25-19602, to receive and to receive the notice of the meeting of the rugby club held on 3rd of March, consider next steps. Before we move into that, I just want to thank Max and Simon for holding the meeting and for Ali for his presentation and involvement. I've discovered from, I've been told by Simon today that the cycle path decision, which was a matter raised at the report, has been dismissed because NNC thinks it has no impact. Some items raised will be planning officer and committee issues, some can be lease related, so we need to be very careful when we come to discuss the lease. But Max, do you want to add anything?
I mean, you've seen notes, two sets of notes, in fact, relating to the meeting. I know a number of you were there. In case you weren't, it was an incredibly packed meeting. The room at the end was entirely full. We had people standing at the end. And again, I'd just like to also reiterate what the mayor's just said. I thought it was actually incredibly well chaired by Simon, who was very fair in terms of letting both sides speak. I think I've actually had a number of people from within the town see me, just wandering around whatever Tesco's or the Co-op, and said, I thought it was a very good meeting. So I think it's done the town council a lot of good. And in fact, most of the comments have been around, and why wasn't it held earlier? And we know the answers to that. So I think it was a very positive meeting. In terms of consider next steps, well, that's partly in the hands of NNC now. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on team or of Max and his report and Simon's report? David.
Just to say well done.
Yeah.
To everybody and Max and people at the meeting. So thank you.
Can we in a minute just record our thanks to both Max and Simon?
Sorry?
Can we in a minute just record our thanks to Max and Simon? Agree. Okay. Thank you, Max. Move on. Item 25-19603, to consider request to hold an Easter egg hunt on the recreation ground. Again, I asked the question, does it need to be approved? But I will take questions and comments. Max?
It's not really a question, it's a comment. I'm more than happy if they want to do this on the recreation ground. I would just suggest that they might want to do it on Fletton Field, because I thought it might be much better and easier to do it on Fletton Field.
Okay, I'll mention that to them.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Mike?
I think it's a great idea to encourage this sort of thing, and given we've got a beautiful new mower, could we run the mower around either Fletton Field or the recreation ground before it?
And take photographs.
It's already quite long for grass, so
Yeah.
it would help.
No, good point. My only question is, do we need to make sure they've got insurance cover if anyone gets injured on our property? We've agreed.
Yeah, I think they are the part of Northern Lands Council, aren't they? The group, yeah, the group that are doing it.
We just need to check that they've got
Yeah,
insurance cover.
they will
If we
have.
approve it and something happens, we can be vicarious.
Yeah, I'll check with that, but if you're happy for them to be on the record.
Do you want to, is everyone broadly happy with this?
Yeah.
And Fletton Field, encourage it, very good point, thank you. Communications working party, nothing to report. Marketing working party to receive the place informatics report for January and consider sharing the content with OBA. Ian?
Yeah, I think you've all seen it. Rob was at the latest, I was on holiday, Rob was at the latest. We get a monthly update from Place Informatics, not only covers the national area, but also the local stuff. So Rob can make a comment on that. But just to redress the OBA, as you know, I'm the OBA liaison, and they have requested that we hold a meeting with some of the retail members of the OBA to basically explain what we're doing and to share some statistics. I don't really have much of a problem with that, but I checked with Emma and she felt that it really had to come to full council, see if there's any objections to that, because the data belongs to the to the council, not to anybody else.
There's no personal data.
Yeah.
Do we need a vote on that, Emma, or can we just get general approval?
Yeah, everybody's
Is everybody happy we share this with OBA?
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay with the setup, and I think it just encourages the rest of the town to see us as a catalyst for action.
The idea was that people, certain part of the retail prime initiative would be the first people to come in and see some of the benefits from this. But Rob, do you want to say a couple of words on that last meeting you had?
Yes, we had a monthly meeting with the team to go through links in with the national UK picture. Rebecca's on that, and she's going driving the way we analyse it. We're still learning as we go as to what the estimates mean and how we can use them to inform what we do, but we do want to present an aggregated feedback at the Oundle Town Council in May, year on year, to show some of the positive trends that we're seeing in December through to January, etc. So work with us to interpret it, but we do want to find a way of presenting back to the town what we're doing in a way that is meaningful and fits in the strategy, creating more business.
That's excellent.
So, you know, just January, you're already seeing a 3.4% increase in footfall coming through versus January last year. So,
Can we put that down to anything we've done?
absolutely, don't take all the credit.
As long as you can take the quick maths too. David?
This is wonderful. This is absolutely outstanding. And so the benefit is that when you're in meetings, like larger council meetings, CCTV meeting, you can mention the fact that we have a plan in place and this is the information we're getting. So I'm just letting you know that I've already mentioned it a couple of times to Northants and to the larger councils.
Well, one particular area is dwell time in town, which is actually quite staggering. There's 120 minutes is the average, so it's really interesting.
Time to visit every shop, Max.
I just would like to register the fact that I'm cautious of any statistics like this, unless I actually understand the methodology that's been used to produce them. So maybe if you and myself, I would have a discussion with you, maybe with them downstream to maybe better understand this and how we should be interpreting this.
Yes, you can do that one.
So general approval to share with the OBA. I was going to ask, is this being shared with retailers outside the OBA? Because that would maybe encourage them to join the OBA, but certainly it should show we're not just acting for the OBA, we're acting for the whole town.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, they didn't request that.
who didn't?
OBA.
Well, they might not. I'm asking whether we should as a council, because all retailers are within our ambit, and it shouldn't just be down to OBA to determine which retailers we share it with. So I would like it shared with all retailers.
I think it should be.
Okay, David?
We have got Alison, who's our independent retailer representative.
I think she's in the OBA, so.
But she can also be used in that area.
But other than that, unless anyone's got any comments or questions, I think
It's brilliant.
fantastic.
Yeah.
This is just what we need to see. Brilliant. Transport Working Party, nothing to report unless you have anything to add?
No, next time.
Market Working Party, nothing to report. 25-201 correspondence. This is normally under class report, isn't it?
No, well, no, that's other correspondence. This is like if anything's come through. Tends to be the employment law.
Oh, of course it does, yeah. So nothing to report?
No.
So we move to item 25-202. Any other matters for report only? Go around the room. Owen?
No.
Phil? Rob?
No.
Ian?
And the flag, the market shop locally banner outside the primary school is no longer a banner. It's more like the shop local banner.
All right.
It's now a floppy banner, whipping around.
What, one off on one of the lights?
Yeah, on the primary school. So who do we report that?
I'll report it to the person that I spoke to.
Get me put up again. Thank you, Ian. Max? David?
Just quickly, we're very fortunate in the town to have an organisation called the Care Committee. The Care Committee's primary role is to support the disabled in the sense of providing equipment for them. But they raise quite a lot of money, and they just had an AGM a got some figures that I thought I'd like to share with you. So in the 24-25 year, which is the one they just completed, their total donations to various charities was £12,200, which included, amongst others, £1,000 to chat, 1,000 to FAB, 1,000 to the first responders, 1,000 to volunteer action, and so on and so forth. I've got all the figures if anybody's interested. The other thing is, you may be aware that at Christmas they do a raffle. And they do that in all the local sort of villages within the area. The total that was raised from the various parishes was £4,414.35, of which Oundle was £1,682.35. I think that's very impressive, quite right. I have no direct involvement with them, other than the fact that my wife is on their committee, which is how I got all the figures. But I actually think that as a council, it would be quite nice to recognise them and just record something. But my second point was, if we were going to invite people to our annual meeting, there's an organisation who might be interested in attending and using it to promote what they do.
Did we give them an award? Not last year.
Not last year,
I think they've done it a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So maybe that's something you would want to put forward at the appropriate time for the AGM. But yes, I see no reason why we can't write and say we think they're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Action point.
The other thing quickly, I mentioned earlier, I've also been in touch with Councillor Humberstone about what's happening at Warmington.
Yes.
He kindly copied me into some material. And at that point, NNC seemed quite vexed as to whether what was being done did or didn't amount to quote unquote development. Because until it becomes development, they can't actually take enforcement action. So they were monitoring it very closely. But of course, I've also seen an email from Warmington Parish Council that was sent in, pointing out exactly what's happened and asking for enforcement action to be taken. So I think it's very much a kind of watch this space. I'll ask for it to be on the agenda for the planning meeting next week. Whether there'll be any update, I don't know, but I think we should be monitoring it. Because we are very vexed about the A605, and I don't think this is going to make the situation on the A605 any easier, quite apart from any other considerations.
Townsend also sent out an email on that.
Yes.
Good, thank you, David. Ian?
Just a very quick point, just to let everybody know that the planning for the marketing, the business plan that we put forward was approved last month is going ahead. We've got about 10 to 12 briefs going out tomorrow for various social media and web agencies to come back, and I just want to commend Rebecca for doing an excellent job in doing that. So we are moving forward, and hopefully we'll have a full report for April. Good council meeting.
Did a great job, thank you, Ian. Mike? James? Val? Wonderful. Emma? And Norman? I'm not going to call the meeting to a close. I'm going to move on to the next matter on the agenda, but in view of the special and or confidential nature of the business about to be transacted, it's advisable in the public interest the public be temporarily excluded when they're instructed to withdraw and turn the hour off. Standing Order Standing Order 3C. So I'm going to propose that. I need somebody to second. Councillor Chappell, all those in favour?
Chairman, can I be excused?
Of course. So that's passed, so if we can turn our friendly bird off. Are you identifying as Councillor Chesser?
Yes. Well, it'd be like stuck on a little bit like Sicily.
Cheers, Val.
Oh, thank you.
Night, Al.